Well, good morning, everyone. Here's a surprise for you. We were not expecting weather around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, but when you least expect it here at Spa, it comes. Look, it's raining, and it has only been raining for a few moments. So there's a bit of confusion going on down on the grid, which is in that murk, as to what tyres are going to be the right ones to be on during this race. Actually, that camera does make it look incredibly wet. It's drizzling. The circuit is certainly wet, and it's relatively cold as well. When we walked into the circuit a few hours ago, just 14 degrees. It's up to 16 now, but we have drama and we haven't even got the cars underway. So we'll have a quick look at all the tyre selections that these cars have taken. This is Klim Gavrilov, who is on the pole position with the wet tyre on the front. Of course, they can do wets on the fronts, they can then put slicks on the rear, but that's probably not advisable. You're more likely to, if you are going to put slicks on during this race, have them on the front, and then the tyres that don't do very much work at the rear of the car would be the wet tyre. So he lines up alongside Callejas, who looks to be on slicks at the front. I think I saw him on wets on the rear. Yes, I did. So there we go. There's a completely different strategy from our front row of the grid. Callejas is going to have some serious work to get some temperature into those front tyres, as is Teddy Claret, who's got slicks on the front of his car. I can see that just from my commentary box. Did he go slicks on the rear as well? I think he might have gone slicks all round. So he's hoping, no, those are wets. The rain is actually intensifying now. So from a drizzle, it's definitely getting wetter and wetter out there. And slick tyres for Girolami as well might not necessarily be the way to go. It's not a cloudburst like we saw in the GT race, in GT qualifying yesterday, where it rained really heavily between sessions and then cleared up. Although out there, which is the furthest point away from where we are now, that doesn't look too bad, does it, Lecom? And there is a bit of a wind that's going to be carrying this cloud through, but hopefully we've got a man on the ground as well who's going to be giving us as much information on tyre choice as possible. I can see Nicolas Bart below me. He looks to be also on the wet tyre. And round the back there at Campus, doesn't look too bad either. Here is Nicolas Bart, local man, lots of local experience of racing various different categories around here. They look like they might be wets as well on the rear of his car. And so expect lots of slipping and sliding, because it's not really, really, really wet. It's not like we expect to see wets on the rear there for Nicolas Bart. Sometimes we see really wet conditions provide more grip than you get from the dry conditions. A slick tyre for Sebastian Loeb Racing and Sami Taufluik on the front of his car, wets on the rear. So that seems to be the way forward. You either go full wets or at least wets on the rear of the car, because, of course, they don't do a lot. They need that softer compound to get hotter quicker. And also, so we now look at Mikael Ashkener. That looks like slicks on the front of his car. Great work by the guys down on the grid to identify what we're seeing. And is that a slick on the rear? No, that's a wet on the rear. So again, the split. We've either got those that have got slicks on the front and then wets on the rear, or we've got the guys that have gone for the full wet setup. Matto Hommela also with the wet tyre on the rear and the slick on the front. Oh no, hang on, I tell a lie, he's gone full slicks. So Matto expecting this to dry up. Well, I don't know, looking from where I am, as I left the commentary box last night, it was very, very dark over the commentary box area. That then became a massive cloudburst. And today, looking out the window, it's grey, but it's certainly not the possibility of rain in the way that we saw yesterday. So this could be very, very interesting. This could be properly chewed up tyres as well. So we're not going to have a standing start. We are going to have a safety car start. So our warm-up lap will act as a warm-up lap, but then we'll come straight across the start-finishing line and get going. If race control are happy enough to release the cars to go racing. They've had no experience on this track in wet conditions across the weekend, and therefore I think at least 2 practice laps would make sense. That might give a chance for the circuit to dry a little bit. The wind is here, the temperature is not here to get rid of that moisture from the tarmac. Now, we've also got a new tarmac on certain sections of this circuit after, well, actually not the original floods of a car about 10 days ago, but the floods that we had a few months back, they destroyed the tarmac down towards Eau Rouge. So from La Source and down towards Eau Rouge, that's a new tarmac, and that might be seeping a little bit in terms of getting the oil out of it. So lots of unknowns for our reverse grid race here at Spa-Francorchamps. It was Michael Ashkener who took victory last time in race 1, which was lunchtime yesterday. He starts in the mid-pack. Kim Gavrilov was very, very good yesterday, and he starts on the front row of the grid with Isidro Callejas, the best of the Brutal Fish drivers yesterday. Teddy Claret in a Peugeot in third, and then Franco Girolami in fourth. Had that rubbing tyre, remember. That was just actually the inner wheel arch that was rubbing. Nicolas Bart and Sami Taufluik will line up on row 3. Ashkener on row 4 alongside Matto Homola. Homola got a silly penalty, he called it, for driving through the pits twice on the way to the grid. And we'll hope for better today. Banani and Yelmini on the 5th row of the grid. They were our podium scorers. It wasn't particularly action-packed at the front yesterday, but it was very action-packed in the mid-pack. Nils Langeveld and Coronel on row 6, and they had lots of fun last race. Leonov and Reba on row 7, both picking up penalties. Reba was the last point scorer because Leonov got 32nd for booting him off the circuit. Jimmy Claret 15th and Dusan Borkovic 16th. Galash is on the grid in 17th after fixing his car. Big contact he had with Kim Gavrilov. Colombani in 18th, and then Jack Young with an engine change starts the back of the grid. No Sylvain Poussier, who had a big impact on the wall between Speaker's Corner and Bruxelles and wrote off the front right of that car, so he will not take part in today's race. Jack Young actually basically overheated the engine. Right, so up the top, we've changed our graphic from formation lap to lap 1 because this is lap 1 of our race. So we are straight into it under safety car, and this lap will count. Now, we did have a 10-lap race yesterday. We're down to 9 laps. And I imagine we'll see 2 laps being done under safety car conditions. It does not look very wet out the back, does it? I mean, we're about 1.5 kilometers away from where the cars are now, the start-finish line. And because of the forests and the elevation changes, even though this is a much smaller circuit than the original 14-kilometer track, you still do get pockets of weather on certain parts of the track. And I think the curbs are pretty wet, and I think you don't want to be going anywhere near the grass creek or the grass. But ultimately, then there's no kind of line being drawn by the drivers on these parts of the track. So those with the slicks, the full slicks, could be the best off here. What will happen with those that have got slicks on the front and then wets on the rear is, for the first couple of laps, the wets on the rear will work really, really well, and then they'll start to overheat, and then the rear end will become really like jelly. It'll have no confidence in parts of the track like we just saw that's Rouge. And you can see in the pit lane, that shot just there, very, very wet conditions, but only as we're coming up now through Blanchiment towards the chicane is where the lights start to glisten in the tarmac, and that's a telltale sign that this part of the track is wetter. So they're going to come in flat out, higher speed around the circuit into the chicane, and then, actually I don't have very much grip. But it really does look pretty localized to the last and the first sectors of our lap, and the middle sector does look pretty dry. So those with full wet tyres around the whole of their car, I think, will struggle when they get to that point of the circuit. We've got a pit visitor already, and who is that in the back of shot? We've got 2 cars, in fact. So Martin Reba and Jimmy Claret coming into pit lane, and that presumably means that they feel like they're on the wrong tyre and they want to get onto a different tyre. Now, I would expect that different tyre to be full slicks. There's Martin Reba. Who else is coming in behind? Jack Young. So both Brutal Fish coming in. and he is going to have wets on the rear of his car. It looks like they might be okay with the fronts. But Jack really has nothing to lose, does he? Because he's with the last position on the grid, with the grid penalty as well, the engine change grid penalty. Lots of work for Brutal Fish to do last night. They are now going to get the full... Oh, hang on a second. So that's going on, isn't it? So that's a slick tyre going on to the front and slick tyre going on to the rear of Martin Rieber. He thinks that slick tyres are the way forward. He needs to work these tyres very, very hard to get temperature into them. And I think you'll find that Jack Young and Jimmy Claret will be making the same assumption. And they're going to be able to be much faster catching up to the safety car than the guys that are trailing around behind the safety car. So an opportunity to get more temperature into the tyres and into the brakes than perhaps these guys who are cruising around at, say, 80 kilometers an hour. Could be an interesting move from Rieber and Jack Young and really could play out for them. Look, there they are now. And yeah, he's got a bit of catching up to do, hasn't he? The safety car line is heading its way round Double Gauche right now, and Martin Rieber's barely on the Kemmel straight. But he can go flat out, but he can attack the braking zone into Les Combes. He has to be careful because, of course, yellow flags are still out, and Rieber is ahead of Jimmy Claret. Jack Young will be behind them as well. Offline, because the racing line may still be a bit slicker with all the rubber that's been laid down from so many support races and the GT 24 hours that we've got running here this weekend. There is Jack Young. So these guys need to be flat out to catch the safety car queue before we go back to racing conditions. But when they get there, they'll have good temperature in the tyres, they'll have good temperature in the brakes, and, well, will they get there? Because, look, the safety car queue is already making its way around Curb Paul Frere and back towards the start-finishing line with Klim Gavrilov leading the way. He was the Motorsport Games gold medalist in TCR. A young team, a small team, lots of work last night to fix the damage to the right side of that car. Both doors heavily dented. And he will lead the cars into the unknown here. The very slippery last couple of corners, hard to attack. And I tell you what, our three that visited the pits are going to be a long, long way back here. They may not catch up. Oh, and we've got Leonov facing the wrong direction even before we go back to green flag racing. Maybe overtaking going on further back too. Feel like that Sebastian Loeb racing car shouldn't be where he is. Oh, and contact, Coronel's got right into the side of Felice Jelmini. Unnecessary contact at lap one, and are the two cars facing the right direction and wheels facing the right direction? Galash also off behind as well. He rejoins the circuit, but I think Coronel is out of this one. And they really have no idea how much grip they've got through these first couple of corners. Nicolas Bart on the tail of Franco Girolami. Now they should have better grip into the second half of the lap. They should be able to get some temperature into their tyres, but they are very, very tentative going into Les Combes. Bart slots in behind Girolami. That's for 5th position. Ashkiner just behind them. And I can tell you, only now are the two Brutal Fish cars coming across the line, Rieber and Young. So they're miles behind. They need another safety car if they've got any chance of catching this group. Side by side for 6th position. Ashkiner round the outside. And Ashkiner moves himself up with finding more grip all the way around the outside. Now we're hearing that Martin Rieber, the number 17, Brutal Fish, may have gone off. So that's number 17, Martin Rieber, the owner of Brutal Fish team, potentially has gone off. And that was almost before the green flag. So that's a disaster for Martin. Now it's still dry down the back of the circuit, so they can really attack this sector of the lap. But then all the temperature they've gained will then be lost on the run back up to the bus stop, and that's going to be a really careful point for all these drivers. Oh, sliding wide out of Curb Paul Frere or Stavelot, whatever you whatever era you come from and know this track about. Ashkina looks really comfortable, though, doesn't he? Now onto the tail of Franco Girolami into Blanchimont. There's grip there. And Ashkina now to the outside. Girolami being very tentative on the brakes here, and there's lots of cars queuing up. Oh, contact as Sami Tauflik bails into the side of him. On a leader, Kim Gavrilov into the pits, I think. Gavrilov has, yes, he has gone into the pit lane, so he's not happy with his tyre choice. He doesn't think it's going to survive, and he's given up the lead of the race. What a shame. Callejas inherits it. Tauflik down the inside line. Here's Gavrilov, and the guys are there. It's a small team, so it's going to take a while to change those tyres. Ah, that's just experience for you, isn't it? Really should have made that call earlier on, and now absolutely no chance of a comeback. Tauflik past Nicolas Bart with Bernani just behind. Ashkina right on the tail of Isidro Callejas, and this is now for second position because Teddy Claret in the Peugeot leads. There he is. Ashkina on the racing line on the outside. Callejas on the inside line, but can't even brake later. Has to slot in behind Ashkina, and Ashkina just driving like a demon here. This could be a repeat of what we saw last year, the double victory for Ashkina. He's the only double victor in this year's championship, having taken race 1 in Slovakia. And so much going on every single lap as the track develops. The tyres will feel different. Those with the wet tyre on the rear of the car will be struggling. So Claret leads, Ashkina in second position, Callejas now in third spot, Girolami fourth, Tauflik, Bart, Bernani, Langeveld, Hommler and Coronel in 10th. He did keep going, but Jelmini did not with that contact into La Source on lap 1. That incident will be investigated after the race, so they want to talk to both drivers about what exactly happened before making a call. So stay across our social channels and of course our website tcrseries.com for the official results. And Matto Hommler at the tail of this field, he should be really strong here. He's got all slick tyres on this car, and the cars in front, we know, has got the wet tyres on the rear. So the guys at the tail of the field, Jack Young, Martin Rieber, they are doing the same times as the guys who've got a split strategy at the head of the field. So actually there's no benefit at the moment being a full slick runner to a wet slick runner, but that is going to change in the second half of the race. The wet tyres will just rip apart, they'll overheat and they'll just melt basically. And that's going to be a concern surely for the Sebastian Loeb Racing guys, who have got that split strategy. I think also Nicolas Bart has as well. But Matto Hommler in the old style Hyundai at the tail of this field right now, he should start to feel the benefits. And the guys further back who took a pit stop during the safety car period will need another safety car to get any chance of catching these guys. Side by side, down towards Eau Rouge, Mehdi Bernani on the left-hand side. Nicolas Bart will have the inside line for the main part of Eau Rouge, and Bernani backs out of it. It does look dry at the bottom of the hill though, doesn't it? That shower was so localized. Incident between Leonov and Langeveld will be investigated after the race. We don't think we saw that, or was that we saw Leonov facing the wrong direction before he even got to the start line. It's Girolami now starting to fade. Tauflik looking strong here, but the rear end of that car is just going to get looser and looser. It's one of the big challenges of the new Elantra is to try and get the car to rotate because it is so long. Langeveld past Bernani, and Hommler follows his way through as well. So Mehdi Bernani's really struggled through Le Combe. And I wonder whether we didn't get as far back, did we, as Langeveld? I wonder whether Langeveld's got himself slick tyres on that car, because he's doing well and they're pulling away from Bernani, and Bernani has no pace whatsoever. He's dropping back. Matto Hommler can be stronger on the brakes as well, of course, because when you've got the stability of the slick tyre on the rear of the car, it means it doesn't move around as much in the braking zone, and therefore he can be later on the brakes, he can make those moves. Hommler with a disappointment yesterday, qualifying in P3, second row of the grid, by far his best qualifying of the year, but then going through the pits twice, picking up a penalty and finishing nowhere. Here is Teddy Claret then, with Michael Ashkina right behind him. Oh, and Claret wild and way off the circuit. Now Claret has the wet tyre on the rear of his car, and that's the kind of place where he'll really feel the difference. And we're halfway through, and surely now, with the track drying up, this is the time where the wet tyres are going to start to scream no more. More changes further back. And this is the midpoint of the pack where we've got different tyre strategies all mixing with each other. And Matto Hommler, with that confidence of all four slicks, absolutely carving through the pack, and Bart struggling now with the split strategy. Franco Girolami just getting a little kiss there from Sami Taufluik. That puts Taufluik under pressure from Hommler. And I think Niels Langebaum further back, he's on the full slick strategy as well. Don't know for sure, but from the pace that he's providing us, I would say he is. Girolami is going to have to really defend here. This is the fourth position. And he's on the inside line, but those Hyundais have been so good along the straight. Anyway, oh, and Matto Hommler going up the inside and squeezing Girolami, and Hommler's going to take two positions. Amazing work from Matto Hommler, up to fourth spot. Taufluik gets one, and Girolami goes down two. Now has to defend, looks down the inside, contact between the two of them. Oh, they just about survive it. That's touring car racing for you. More contact, and Nicolas Bart tries to go down the inside. They're both on the grass. Can they get the car stopped? Yes, they can, and round the outside. Niels Langebaum's benefited hugely from that. Oh, race direction's going to be busy this afternoon. There's plenty of kissing going on and plenty of things to investigate. Matto Hommler up to fourth then, and absolutely disappearing now in fourth position in the older style i30 for Yannick Motorsport. They've had a disastrous season so far, and Hommler now is chasing down Kayeas, Ashkina and Claret. These two, I think these two are still on the split, and we'll be able to really compare who's on what tyre by the guys that we really know have got the full slicks. Matto Hommler, and then the guys that pitted, Gavrilov, Rieber, Jack Young. Now in the points, by the way, a 35.0 for Gavrilov in his Audi, and that's the fastest lap of the race. This is amazing stuff, though. Why don't we just make them drive on wet tyres all season long? Cars moving around so much. Great to really see the guys working at it, but Ashkina all the way around the outside, and he takes the lead of the race with 4 laps remaining. But what kind of pace are these guys doing in comparison to the guys that we know are on slicks further back? That's the question mark. We don't really know exactly what tyres our front two are on, but we're suspecting they've got the wets on the rear. So Ashkina now, clear track ahead of him. Teddy Claret really under his rear wing, so he's not letting him get away that much. And let's see what kind of times Ashkina can do in the clear air now. Up Eau Rouge, over Radion, the cars look pretty stable, don't they? Now that's a slick, that's a dry part of the circuit, so maybe these guys have got the full slicks on. Thank you very much to Race Control, who've made a note of all of the different cars that have got what they've got on them. And yeah, wet rear, dry front for Michael Ashkina, our leader. And the same for Teddy Claret. And it's also the same for Isidro Kayeas. So the first man on the full slick tyre is Hommler, and he has just set the fastest lap, or his first sector. Oh, just look how they lean on the cars through Pouon on the rear end just stepping out in comparison to how it grips up with Hommler and almost gives Hommler a load of bundle of understeer. Ashkiner, amazing pace through the first sector of the lap. He's only a 10th off Hommler's time, and Ashkiner with that split tyre strategy. Now, the reason why Gavrilov came into the pits, of course, was he was the only runner to have gone onto the full wet tyre. And so that was never going to last. The fronts would have just destroyed themselves. And so he kind of went safe. Oh, there's a very interesting graphic. It's from 6 down to 4.4 seconds, the gap. That shows how much Hommler is taking out of the guys in front of him. This could be Hommler's victory, you know. He's going to only have 3 laps left, so it's going to be hard work for him. But he's going to have to put in the laps of his life, like he did in qualifying. He said, I was absolutely on the limit. I couldn't go anymore. Flat out through Eau Rouge, absolutely pinned. And let's have a look now at what the gap is at the next sector. So it was 4.4, and it's 3.7 between Teddy Claret in the Peugeot there and Matto Hommler. Now, the first sector here, you can still see it's wet here, so this is where Hommler will struggle a bit more. He needs to be a little bit more tiptoey, and then you can actually really see on that camera what's going on. Franco Girolami defending from Nicolas Bart and Mehdi Benani behind. Now, Benani had a couple of laps where he was really struggling. Now it looks like Benani might have got himself back into a controllable situation, and he blasts past Nicolas Bart. But look where the rain stops. I can't believe how localized it was. Maybe even in the paddock it wasn't raining for TCR, but it was on the grid. This is the battle of 7th position between Girolami, who basically leads our championship. Nicolas Bart and Mehdi Benani, our last year champion, and they go 3 wide up the Kemmel Straight. Is there any space for Nicolas Bart to take it down the middle? Yes, he does. Nice work there. Good work from all 3 of them not to eliminate each other. There's a big black cloud behind that camera shot. Not quite sure exactly where that is from, but it's going to cause mayhem here at Spa for the rest of the day. Great battling all the way through the field. 25 and 72 are under investigation. So that is Taufik and Girolami. That was round Le Combe, wasn't it? Wow, massively wide from Franco Girolami. There's going to be some warnings. All drivers must respect track limits is the message from race control. But when you've got tyres that are eating themselves apart, that's going to be quite difficult. And race control really do seem very sympathetic this weekend to what the drivers are having to deal with here at Spa. And plenty of experience in race control of team management and driving. They do seem very, very understanding. Niels Langeveld also doing a very good job. Now, we think he was on the split strategy as well, so he's just making the best of the conditions and chasing down Isidro Callejas. Here is our leader then. We're gonna come to the line and we'll have 2 to go, and Hommler has absolutely halved the gap, hasn't he? We'll get the gap when they come to the line, but Claret can't hold on to Ashkiner, who's dealing with the situation very, very well. His last lap time was a 2:35. The live gap between Hommler and Claret is now 1.6, and Hommler does a 34.5, as opposed to Ashkiner, who did a 36.5, so 2 seconds faster. And it's happening further back as well. Gavrilov up to 13th position, by the way. Is continuing to set fastest laps of the race. He's actually passed Jack Young, and we know Jack's also on the slick tyre. So Gavrilov up to 13th, Jack Young 14th, and the best of those that pitted is Jimmy Claret in 12th spot. Has Matto Hommler got enough time? The gap is 3.3 seconds, or was 3.3 seconds between Hommler and Ashkiner. It's 1.5 between Hommler and Claret through that first sector, but the first sector is where Matto has the least benefit because of his slick tyres. And again, Girolami's super defensive, in 8th position. Bart has lost a position there, so that's a change since the start of the lap. And Girolami does hold on. In the distance, we see Tom Coronel in the yellow Audi. just nowhere near. He's obviously got damage from quite heavy contact with Yalmini at the start of the race. And Leonov actually didn't... Leonov only managed to complete 2 laps, so somewhere around the circuit, the Volcano Astra ended up stopping. Now, we know that he was under investigation from contact with Nils Langebelt, so I wonder whether they... Nils... That wasn't the contact that we saw at the chicane, where we saw Leonov facing the wrong direction, but it was somewhere else. Matto Homola on the tail now of Teddy Claret. It's going to be pretty easy for Homola to get this done. As I say, he's got the stability under braking that the guys in front don't have. Through the driest sector of the lap, coming back towards the start line where it's more moist. But I reckon even the braking zone into the chicane isn't too bad for Homola to get down the inside. Let's see, he's not particularly close, but Claret will have to balance that Peugeot through Blanchimont. Sliding sideways, the car moving around a lot. Homola to the outside, can be later on the brakes. And will he claim the position? No, it is too wet for him. So he's going to have to wait till they come. Probably not going to get down the inside of La Source. And by not doing it there, we're on to the final lap. Has he got enough time? It's to get onto the tail of Ashkina. Matto Homola, with the right tyre choice, the only man to do so at the start of the race, but he's going to have to wait until he gets to Le Con to pass Teddy Claret. The gap is still 3.1 seconds. And he was taking around 2 seconds out of Ashkina, but on the last lap it was only 1. This should be easy pickings for Homola. It should be, but it should have been earlier too. Here is Ashkina with a little bit of bodywork hanging off the Cupra. And I'll tell you what an incredible job he's done on the wrong tyre strategy, not the ideal tyres. Car moving around a lot, sliding around a lot, and again Matto Homola can't get past. Still side by side further back, and this is again for 7th position as Nicolas Bart trying to claim the position from Franco Girolami, and again can't do so. And again Bart is losing out. I think he's losing out through Eau Rouge, isn't he? Because at the start of the lap, Bart is registering as 7th, and by the time we get to Eau Rouge, he's down to 8th position again. And Matto Homola still behind Teddy Claret. Can Claret hold on to 2nd here? It would be remarkable if he did, considering the way the car is moving around underneath him. And look, in the middle part of the lap, Franco Girolami doing a good job. Here comes Matto Homola down the inside. Into Fagnes, but it's a chicane, so Teddy Claret has the inside line. Homola tries to go all the way around the outside. Claret gets a slide on, they're still side by side, and Homola is going to have the inside line for Campus and gets the move done, but it's too little too late to win this race. It's still a great result for Matto Homola. It'll be his best result probably for a couple of seasons, I reckon. He took 3 third positions last year for BRC, but his last victory was at the very start of 2019, and then he only stood on the podium once after that. But Michael Ashkina, in unlikely circumstances here at Spa-Francorchamps, with wet tyres on a drying track, has shown his class once more. Ashkina takes the checkered flag, takes the victory in a slidey Cupra, and the double victory here at Spa across the weekend, ahead of Matto Homola and Teddy Claret. Ezekiel Callejas holding off Nils Langebelt, who was also incredibly strong in those mixed conditions. And then Tammy Taufluik behind in 6th spot, and that great battle has not really resolved itself, has it? Because Franco Girolami has held on to 7th, ahead of Nicolas Bart and Mehdi Benani. And then Tom Coronel with a rather battle-scarred Audi comes across the line in 10th position. And then we wait for those that pitted. There's Martin Rieber. I think he was off the road on his first lap out the pits. And ultimately, taking the pit stop was not the right choice. But there is no one in front of him that can claim his class victory. So Martin Rieber is going to win the diamond category because Sylvain Poussier did not start the race and Gilles Colombani is behind him. But so far back, Ashkenar is already in pit lane and is about to start celebrating with his team. And some of the cars have yet to come across the finishing line. That's the sound of Jack Young finishing the race. And Jack Young finishing ahead of Dusan Borkovic on the last lap. So Borkovic losing a position and Jack Young claiming 13th. But what a drive from Michael Ashkenar. What a drive. A double victory here last year. A double victory again in 2021. A third victory of the season. He wasn't even with us last round. So in 6 races, he has taken 3 victories, and he very much is the class of the field here. Here's Matto Hommela, and again, I feel as though Matto is going to be frustrated. He really should have taken the victory there. Ultimately, he should have been 3 seconds a lap faster than the guys who were on the split tyre strategy. But just took a bit too much time to get through the traffic, especially passing Teddy Claret, and therefore he couldn't close down. There wasn't enough laps to close down Michael Ashkenar by the end, but it is his best result since Spa in 2019. Still waiting for Martin Rieber to come across the line. There he goes now. So the last of our finishers, Martin Rieber and Joachim Galasch. And actually, Gilles Colombani is still not finished either, so Gilles is somewhere out there. Martin Rieber wins his class, though, the diamond category. And Isidro Callejas wins the rookie category in 4th position, so he'll be back on the podium again. His competitor, Joachim Galasch, down in 16th after a pit stop. There is a smiley Matto Hommela, and here is a provisional results. Make sure you check in with our website to make sure it is official a few hours later. Ashkenar takes the victory from Matto Hommela in 2nd position and Teddy Claret in 3rd spot. Isidro Callejas eventually from the front row down into 4th. Niels Langeveld tried to get past him but failed. Sami Taufluik will be on the podium as well because he wins the junior category. Franco Girolami in 7th. Nicolas Bert, a great battle between Franco, Nicolas and Mehdi Banani. And then Tom Coronel gets 10th position, some 26 seconds back after contact on the first corner. Jimmy Claret, 11th, the first of those that pitted to get onto the right tyre strategy. Then Kim Gavrilov, Jack Young, Dusan Borkovic and Martin Rieber. He wins the class for diamond category. Well, a double victory in 2020, a double victory in 2021, and 3 wins this season. Michael Ashkenar is the class of the field.
Michael, many congratulations, a double race victory.
Yes, thank you very much. Cannot be happier. Really happy for my team. We did amazing change of tires in these very tricky conditions. We put the slicks on the front, wet on the rear, because at the beginning it was too much rain, but we decided slicks in the front. But in the end, Matto Hommela, he was with 4 slicks, he was faster than me, but they said, hey Michael, 3 laps remaining, push really hard, you have to win this race. I pushed really hard, but with this combination and the dry track, the car is really difficult to manage. You are sliding all the time because of the wet on the rear. But yeah, I could stay on the 1st position. Very happy, double victory again here in Spa. Really proud of my team Vulcano, really proud of Cupra Racing Team, and keep pushing because we have to fight for the title.
Yes, as you say, you did the double victory here last year as well. You clearly like Spa.
Right?
You like this track, you won here twice last year.
Yeah, I really love this track. I really love these difficult conditions. Spa, I mean, is the track I love. And yeah, especially the rain conditions, I really like a lot. And yeah, when before of the race, I said to my engineer, I really like rain. And when we went on the pre-grid, the rain starts, so we said, okay, the race is ours. So yeah, we pushed really on the limit. Matto was pushing also really hard on the end of the race, but yeah, victory again. Keep pushing for a championship.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely well done. Right, so we had so much action going on that there was other things that we weren't able to show you, so the highlights package is going to be mega. We started off with a wet first sector, and those that weren't particularly trusting in their tyre strategy came into the pits to get onto the full slick tyres, thinking that was the right way forward. It would have been if they were able to catch the back of the field. That was Martin Rieber on his outlap, getting into the gravel at Curb Paul Frere. Oh yeah, Niels Langeveld did bin Leonov before the start of the race. Jelmini coming across Tom Coronel, and then contact between the two of them. That broke the rear suspension of Jelmini and put him out of the race. Coronel with big damage. Bart against Ajkanar through Bruxelles. And this was all the way around the outside for Ajkanar as he started his climb through the field, looking comfortable with the split strategy at that point. The Russian Klim Gavrilov, the pole sitter, going into the pits because he was the only man that had full wet tyres. That was a naughty moment from Frankie Girolami, and then it continued as he tried to shut the door, and Nicolas Bart. Difficult to know exactly how to call that one for the race stewards. And then Ajkanar had the better car, didn't he, on the split wet-dry tyre, and got past Teddy Claret. A few laps later, Matto Homler, this failed move offline probably cost him the race. Round the outside, didn't work for him on the full slick tyres. He managed to do it half a lap later, but it still took him a couple of corners to do so, because Claret was proper drifty, wasn't he, all the way through Fagnes. And Ajkanar had enough to hold on ahead of Matto Homler, and then Claret in third spot. A big shout out, by the way, to Klim Gavrilov, who had the fastest lap of the race by a whole second over all of the others that had the slick tyre full choice. And as the next race gets ready, the rain begins to fall again on the grid. So deja vu for the GT4 competitors that come up next. Meanwhile, we can celebrate our podium. Everyone seems to be in place, and so we can get everybody up onto the podium. And we've got also TCR Benelux, I presume, also up there. So we're going to celebrate the Benelux entries. Teddy Claret holding on to third position for Claret Sport. It's not the starring performance we saw in Paul Ricard for Claret Sport, but with a car written off yesterday, that is some consolation for them. Matto Homler, his best result since here 2 years ago. Be very, very happy with that, especially considering last year was in a semi-works Hyundai. But the Works Cupra driver, Michael Ajkanar, showing his heels to everybody else. On the split strategy, it worked out for him, and Volcano Motorsport have a double victory here at Spa-Francorchamps. Best rookie, Isidro Callejas, just 16 years of age and having to cope with a Larry Honda on the wrong tyre choice, did a great job. And now the Belgium national anthem to honour those that have suffered in the disasters around the local area here at Spa-Francorchamps. Really is the man to beat, especially considering we drop scores in this championship for the first time this year. You can drop your lowest two scores. Ajkanar missing Zandvoort because he was on the electric touring car championship build, and therefore those will be his two drop scores. So his championship lead that he brought into this round is even larger because of those drop scores, and I don't know what anybody else can do about his championship lead. Always wonderful to visit Spa-Francorchamps. We've done it for many, many years now, mainly on this bill, on this weekend, celebrating all kinds of different motorsport with the 24 Hours of Spa. It's such a massive packed grid. And so now let's get to TCR Benelux podium, and that is Niels Langeveld, who is under investigation from that contact with Evgeny Leonov. Martin Rieber is our best diamond driver, and I think he might be a little bit frustrated as well. And Sami Tauflit from Morocco is our best junior driver. And he was involved in a very, very entertaining battle as well, wasn't he? Actually did a great job on the tyres. And they will take a bottle of Pommery back to their team. And now can relax and settle down and watch the rest of the action here at Spa. There is plenty to do so. The 24 hours kicks off at 4:30 local time. So lots of time for these guys to get themselves all packed up. And the rain begins to fall once more here at Spa. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed 2 frenetic races. If you missed anything, go back to our YouTube channel. They're all there in the archive. And you will see us again in about a month's time at the circuit Nürburgring, again supporting SRO for 2 races from TCR as we move into the second half of the championship. Thank you very much for joining us, and bye-bye.